It is August 13th, 2019. From MMA Fighting Studios, this is an MMA News Show. Welcome. I'm Esther Lin, and this week we'll recap UFC on ESPN Plus 14, Shevchenko vs. Carmouche. We'll also review other fight results and peek at what fans have to look forward to from Anaheim, round up trash talk around the fight world, and more. Jose Youngs will discuss his recommendations for future bookings, and Alex K. Lee will give us his picks on which fights to watch this weekend. Last week, our reporter Guilherme Cruz traveled to Uruguay for UFC on ESPN Plus 14. Let's check in with Guilherme for his report on Valentina Shevchenko versus Liz Carmouche from Montevideo.
UFC's first trip to Montevideo, Uruguay was a night of highs and lows. In the co-main event, Vicente Luque versus Mike Perry was a fight that everybody expected to be exciting. It definitely exceeded some expectations. It was a brutal war, a bloody war. It was close. It was razor-thin close. If you go on social media, people are complaining about robbery. Those people, in my opinion, are wrong, because if you score for Perry, you have a good point. Watching it live from Uruguay, it definitely felt that Perry was landing the better shots in the first and second rounds, and Luque definitely had the third round and trying for the guillotine choke. But I mean, if you score for anyone, it was so close that you can make a point that anyone won. But the biggest winner of that fight was definitely the fans. I mean, the place was on fire during that fight, except for one moment that Mike Perry went for the clinch in the third round. People started booing. He just flipped the bird on everyone, and the crowd went nuts. So it was one of the best fights of the year. In the main event, though, Valentina Shevchenko was a huge favorite against Liz Carmouche. She was fan favorites, especially after her last win against Jessica Eye. Brutal knockouts with head kick. But the main event of UFC Uruguay was a lackluster fight. It wasn't exciting at all. People were booing since the first round. Actually, in the first round, when someone started to boo in the arena, everyone is on him. They were curious to see what they were going to do. And we get it that they started a fighting that's a feeling out process, but that feeling out process lasted longer than everyone expected. So Valentina Shevchenko won. Liz Carmouche didn't get close to give her any problem in the fight, but it wasn't exciting. It wasn't a good fight. Now it raises questions. Does the UFC have to go out and find a bigger challenge for her? Maybe like Joanna Jędrzejczyk went from strawweight to flyweight. Do they have to bring Jessica Andrade, who defends her belt later this month in China? Or maybe move Valentina Shevchenko up back to bantamweight for a trilogy bout with Amanda Nunes? That remains to be seen. Regardless of that, it was fun being in Montevideo, Uruguay, to cover this UFC there. This has been Guilherme Cruz. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Guy. In other notable results from UFC Uruguay, former title challenger Volkan Ozdemir knocked out Ilir Latifi at 4 minutes and 31 seconds of the second round. Brazilian Rodolfo Vieira submits Oscar Piechota via triangle choke in the second round, and Marina Rodriguez defeats Tisha Torres, dominating all 3 rounds of their strawweight bout. Also this past weekend, Pam Sorensen defeated Caitlin Young for the vacant Invicta FC featherweight title, while former Bellator flyweight title contender Emily Ducote defeated Janisa Moranjan in her drop to strawweight. And Victoria Leonardo and Stephanie Geltmacher traded offense nonstop in their 15-minute war, resulting in another split decision originally announced for Geltmacher, but Leonardo was given the win after the commission corrected their mathematical error. UFC vets fought at Bare Knuckle FC, where Jim Ayler stopped Leonard Garcia at 1 minute and 38 seconds in the first round, and Isaac Valley Flag won a TKO over Melvin Gillard. Former UFC heavyweight Chase Sherman defeated and claimed 2 titles from Bare Knuckle FC heavyweight champ Arnold Adams via unanimous decision, while Helen Peralta upset Christine Ferreira by decision to earn the Bare Knuckle FC and Police Gazette featherweight title. Next, let's see what fights ought to be made in the wake of UFC Uruguay with Book It from Jose Youngs.
Thanks, Esther. Now we're going to look at UFC Uruguay and fights to make for the main and co-main event and others from the undercard. We're going to start off in the main event where UFC flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko cruised to an easy decision win over Liz Carmouche, avenging her previous loss from 2010. What's next for Valentina Shevchenko? It's really complicated because the division is so new. Katlyn Chookagian is the number 2 ranked fighter, so it makes sense that she's next. She's only coming off one victory over Joanne Calderwood. If Joanne Calderwood had beaten Katlyn Chookagian, it would be a no-brainer. But Katlyn Chookagian is the next woman up. That's the fight that I think makes the most sense. It might not draw the most attention. It might not be the most exciting fight. I can't imagine it's going to be a main event anytime in 2019, but Valentina Shevchenko versus Katlyn Chookagian is most likely next for the reigning flyweight champion. Now moving to the co-main event, and what many consider what was the actual main event, was Vicente Luque absolutely battered Mike Perry en route to a close split decision win. Now Mike Perry, his face did explode, so he's going to be out for I think 180 days or so. So what's next for him? That's going to be farther down the road, but maybe a Nico Price who's coming off a loss to Jeff Neal. I know Robbie Lawler's out there. Mike Perry's always wanted to fight him, and Robbie Lawler really needs one of those fighters that can really stand and bang with him and have one of those exciting back and forth wars. So Mike Perry versus Robbie Lawler would be awesome. I really like that. I'm not sure Robbie Lawler would take that, so maybe Mike Perry versus Nico Price later down the road, maybe early 2020. Now for Vicente Luque, who's been an absolute tear in the welterweight division. Now, Mike Perry wasn't ranked, and he really wanted a ranked fighter next, but he did take a very dangerous fight, and he came out victorious. A bloody victor. So what's next for him? He was supposed to fight Neil Magny before that fight fell apart. He could take that fight, but if I'm the UFC, I'm looking to book Vicente Luque versus Santiago Ponzinibbio in the main event of their upcoming UFC Sao Paulo fight. Santiago Ponzinibbio is, of course, Argentinian, but he does have ties to Brazil. Vicente Luque trains in Florida, but he is Brazilian, so I think that's a perfect fight for both men to really catapult themselves into title contention. So Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Vicente Luque, book it. And finally, we're going to finish it off with Volkan Ozdemir's absolutely dominant stoppage win over Ilir Latifi. Now, Volkan Ozdemir was on a bit of a losing streak. He lost to Daniel Cormier, who was then the UFC light heavyweight champion, in a fight he said he wasn't ready for. In a fight he fought with an injured right hand. He lost to Anthony Smith, who went on to fight John Jones for the light heavyweight title, and he lost to Dominic Reyes in a fight I actually thought he won. Now, he called for the rematch against Dominic Reyes. I like that fight, especially because it was so close and so controversial, but Dominic Reyes actually booked against Chris Weidman on that upcoming UFC Boston card, so maybe Volkan Ozdemir fights the winner, or he could even fight someone like Jan Blachowicz, who's coming off that very impressive stoppage win over Luke Rockhold, but that's if Jan Blachowicz doesn't get the next title shot. Maybe even fights the winner or loser or somewhere in that Corey Anderson, Johnny Walker fight coming up. There's a lot of options in the UFC light heavyweight division, but first I would really like to see Volkan Ozdemir heal and check on his right hand, because a Volkan Ozdemir with 2 hands is a very dangerous fighter at 205 pounds. And that's Book It with Jose Youngs. Now back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Jose. In other news, the UFC announced Claudia Gadelha and Cynthia Calvillo will meet on December 7th, while former flyweight title challenger Jessica Ai will face the rising Viviane Araujo on December 14th. Former WBC and IBF boxing champ Ava Knight will make her MMA debut in Bellator at their September 28th event in Los Angeles. BJJ standout AJ Agazarm has his second fight in Bellator. He will face Jonathan Quiroz, also at Bellator 228 in September. And Invicta FC announced the second installment of their Phoenix Tournament series with a one-night, 8-woman flyweight tournament going down on September 6th in Kansas City. Light heavyweight John Allen has tested positive for an undisclosed banned substance following his win over Mike Rodriguez at UFC on ESPN in Sacramento back in July, while Estela Nunes, who was slated to face Angela Hill in Mexico City on September 21st, has been removed from the card, also due to a USADA anti-doping violation. And now, the bad boy Alex K. Lee gives us his fights to watch this coming weekend.
What is up, everybody? We definitely have got some fun fights to talk about for this weekend. Let's start off UFC 241 on Saturday in Anaheim, California. That starts off 6:15 p.m. on ESPN+. The next set of prelims, 8 p.m. on ESPN. And then the main card, pay-per-view, 10 p.m. Those are all Eastern times. You guys know what's going down. We've got Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic 2 for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. Cormier knocked him out last time to take the title, and I think Miocic is hoping that if he gets revenge this time in definitive fashion, gets a finish of his own, it'll make that first fight, just look like a blip on his own march towards heavyweight immortality, but we'll see. And you may have also heard some guy named Nate Diaz is coming back. He hasn't competed in the octagon since the Conor McGregor rematch, which would be almost 3 years ago to the day when Saturday rolls around. Diaz is fighting Anthony Pettis in a welterweight bout. Pettis in this great stage of his career where I don't think he cares so much about chasing titles anymore, that burden is gone, and he's just looking for entertaining fights. So him and Diaz are perfect for each other. In early morning action on Friday from Bangkok, you have One Championship Dreams of Gold. Now, that should be starting about 6 a.m. Eastern Time, our time, if my time zone math is correct. You got the prelims free on Facebook and Twitter, and the rest of the show on the One app for those of us in North America. The app is also free, so download that and you're good to go. This one's all about the kickboxing. You've got a Muay Thai Championship main event, Petchtam defending his title against Danish fighter Ilyas Anahachi. But more intriguing is the semifinals of the 155-pound kickboxing tournament. Giorgio Petrosian facing Joe Nadawat and Sami Sana facing Jabbar Askarov. When this first started, I'm pretty sure one officials were hoping that either Pechmorakat or Yotsanklai would be in the finals, but don't sleep on the guys remaining. The first round was really fun, and we could see more of that on Friday because it was very surprising, as you can tell by the fact that Yotsanklai and Pechmorakat are no longer in the tournament. And on Sunday morning, or late Saturday evening, I guess, for us in North America, you have Ryzen 18 from Nagoya. That'll be 1 a.m. Eastern Time Sunday morning on Fight TV for less than half the price of a UFC pay-per-view. So why not? You get to see Kyoji Horiguchi in the main event. He's your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. He's taking on 25-year-old prospect Kai Asakura in a non-title bantamweight bout. The Gooch just beat Darren Caldwell for a Bellator title, but he'll have to be careful here because Asakura is a really good fighter. He's 4-0 in the Ryzen ring. And in the co-main, you'll have the best atomweight in the world, Ayaka Hamasaki. She's got 2 wins over current Invicta champ Jinyu Fry. She's never lost 105 pounds. She'll also be looking to avoid an upset because she's taking on 23-year-old prospect Suanan Boonsorn. Guys, just remember, I always say fighting is supposed to be fun. So whatever combat sports you watch this weekend, please enjoy yourselves.
Thanks, Alex. Now let's take a look at some of the best in this week's Trash Talk. Jorge Masvidal was on the scene in Uruguay talking to media and addressing Leon Edwards' call-outs of him.
Leon then was still is, in my opinion. I'm going to kick his ass. It's not going to be on his terms or whenever the he wants it. It'll always be on mine, and that's what bothers him so much inside. He's got to look at this interview where people are going to call him and tell him, you're a nobody. I run the show. You listen to me. When I say I'm going to kick your ass, I'll kick your ass.
Leon Edwards responded to Masvidal on Twitter. Shut the up. You're a You will do nothing. You're a journeyman. Stop chatting and let's make the fight. #run Jorge run. And Mike Perry took to Instagram to congratulate Vicente Luque on the win, and Platinum admitted he had much to learn from the silent assassin, to which Luque responded, "Look forward to training with you. I'm sure we can learn a lot from each other. No doubt you're the toughest man I fought, and we showed everyone out there what fighting is about. Respect." That's it for us here at This is an MMA News Show. We'll be in Anaheim all week with coverage of UFC 241 Daniel Cormier vs. Stipe Miocic 2. This is Esther Lin for MMA Fighting. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter at MMA Fighting, and Instagram at MMA Fighting DOTCOM, and thanks for watching. This is an MMA News Show.